And nearly a week after megastar Amitabh Bachchan and his son Abhishek Bachchan were admitted to Mumbai's Nanavati hospital after testing COVID positive, Aishwarya Rai and Aradhya too have been shifted to Mumbai's COVID-dedicated Nanavati hospital. Legendary actor Amitabh Bachchan and his son Abhishek tested positive for coronavirus on 11 June in Mumbai. A day later, Aishwarya and Aradhya tested positive. Amidst battle against COVID, race for vaccine is heating up. The UK media is reporting that the vaccine developed by Oxford and manufactured by AstraZeneca has shown good results in the first phase trial and produced some immune response. Lancet is expected to publish the data on human trials next week. The project has started phase 3 of the human trials to assess how the vaccine works in a large number of people over the age of 18. The third phase of the trials are expected to be over by September. If all goes well, the vaccine could hit the market by October.
Can I start by asking you that one question that's uppermost in the minds of every single person who's watching you at this time? Dr. Ella, vaccine kab aayegi?
I think, it's like, Rahul, I just want to say that I'm not the hero of this country. I'm telling you the heroes are the doctors, nurses, and the police people. Really, they deserve the help. They are the heroes of this country. And I think I just want to say, this vaccine will definitely be there by end of this year, for sure. If the regulators are going to help us, we'll be there before this end of the year.
So when you say that the vaccine you believe is likely to be ready by December, what do you mean? Does it mean that the trials will be over and technically the vaccine will be ready for distribution and manufacturing? Or are you saying people who are watching you at this time will start receiving the vaccine by the end of the year?
See, what we believe is, what happens, the regulators are like this. If the phase 1 and 2 clinical trial data is a very clean, good data, regulators has got two options. Either option is one, they can approve the vaccine, start selling, or if they're not satisfied, they can ask for phase 3 trial. It depends on the regulators. So because of that ambiguity, I'm not able to commit anything like this at this time, but certainly many of the countries are going in a fast track clearances. So I think my feeling is, if you ask me my intuition, it will be there by end of this year. In sense, if it is completed a successful clinical trial, production is not an issue and will be there into the market.
So your vaccine is called Covaxin. Can you give us some sense of the human trial that you are conducting? How many patients will be part of this human trial? How long is this process likely to take? You're saying if this turns out to be a clean trial, then we can move faster. By when will we know if this is indeed a clean trial?
Rahul, I think many people ask this question on the vaccine company, why they were not coming fast on the vaccine. The vaccine is a long drawn project. If you ask me a vaccine, it takes 15 years. For us, rotavirus vaccine, it took 16 years for us to come into the market. Typhoid conjugate, it took almost 12 years in getting into the market. So I think if you look at by that definition, we are really fast tracked the vaccine. So if you ask me the procedure for this followed, right now we got phase 1 and 2 permission. So we had to recruit volunteers. So we have planned 1,200 people and more than 10 centers all over the country. And in that process, we had to recruit who are COVID negative. We had to test them that they are RT-PCR negative. After recruiting them, then we have to vaccinate. The trial is only 30 days. So you give first dose 0, 14 days, and then draw the sample on 28th day. That's simple trial. But after that, you have serology studies we carried out. And where we are working with a partnership with an NIV, Pune, so the serology will be done in both NIV and Bharat Biotech. So we are all working sincerely, I'm telling you, as a commercial company, is not to make a story out of it, but the virus, to multiply, it takes 15 days. So it doesn't happen just like that. So every test, it takes a minimum 2 to 3 weeks for us for the results to come. So I think people should understand, it is not that something launching like a chemical drug. Vaccine is a very high end. We want to produce safe and efficacious vaccine to the world. And that's very important to us.
After reports from South Korea and China, now some cases of recovered COVID-19 patients getting the infection are being reported in India. So can you really catch corona again after recovering from the virus? Here's our special report.
"45 days after recovering from a bout of COVID-19, a doctor in Noida has tested positive again. 10 patients discharged from a Mohali hospital this week have tested positive again too. One patient who recovered in Himachal Pradesh has got the disease. The novel coronavirus is bearing a new face, a dangerous one at that. Jury is still out, but these instances indicate there's no guarantee a person is immune to COVID after fighting it off once.
Thank you, Dr.
It's still a mystery why people who have developed antibodies after fighting the virus still get infected again.
So, if the virus has mutated and a new strain has developed, you can have infection again. So that is what is being seen in South Korea, that is what is being seen in China also. But how many of them go on to develop a severe disease? Still not very clear because the numbers are very small.
A study in the UK offers some answers. Research led by King's College London found levels of antibodies that can destroy the virus peaked at about 3 weeks after the onset of symptoms, then started declining. Similar studies in Munich, Germany also showed that there was a significant decrease in the number of antibodies with time. These findings coincide with a similar investigation done in China, which found antibodies in COVID-19 patients do not stay forever in the blood. Many experts say people getting reinfected may mean they were not fully cured in the first instance.
Whenever any infection goes in the body, it produces two types of immunity. One is T cell and second is the B cell. B cell produces antibodies. So even if you are not getting adequate IgG antibodies of the infection, but your T cell remains activated or get activated whenever this infection again challenges your body.
Normally, human body attacks the virus in two ways, through antibodies and T cells that are activated when the virus attacks again. A T cell is activated for about 2 years. For example, SARS patients developed long-term antibodies against the virus.
Experts believe that we are highly likely to get infected by the coronavirus as we move into the pandemic in future years. They also don't rule out the infections by saying that seasonal waves could hit with reinfections of the coronavirus. But for now, can you get infected again after once having recovered from it? Experts say that such cases are rare and it's highly unlikely to happen. But certainly boosting immunity after recovery and continuing to wear a mask with social distancing norms would go a long way in protecting each and everyone from the infection. With Manjeet Sehgal, this is Milan Sharma for India Today.
And there's been a stunning new twist. The Kerala gold smuggling case is full of twists and turns. It has now been revealed that Swapna Suresh, the alleged mastermind in the case, was appointed after the recommendation of suspended ex-principal secretary M. Shivashankar. Also, the gunman to UAE Consulate General was found injured. Here's our detailed report.
More embarrassment for Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. After first removing his most trusted aide, IAS officer M. Shivashankar, as the principal secretary, the state government has now suspended him. The suspension letter reveals Shivashankar was behind the appointment of gold smuggling racket suspect Swapna Suresh in the state IT department. In another dramatic twist, Jay Ghosh, the gunman of the UAE Consul General in Thiruvananthapuram, was found injured on Friday. His wrist was severely slit after a suspected suicide bid. Jay Ghosh claims innocence in the gold smuggling case. Interestingly, Jay Ghosh went missing on Thursday, the same day that attaché in the UAE consulate left India. The gold was allegedly being smuggled in diplomatic luggage addressed to the attaché. India Today has accessed call details of Swapna that show she had called Jay Ghosh earlier. The call records also show that Swapna made 138 calls to UAE Consul General. She also spoke to Sarit 45 times and dialed the UAE attaché 28 times. The opposition is up in arms against the Pinarayi Vijayan government. The Congress is demanding the Chief Minister's resignation.
മുഖ്യമന്ത്രിയുടെ ഏറ്റവും വിശ്വസ്തനായി നാവായി പ്രവർത്തിച്ച ശിവശങ്കറിനെ രക്ഷിക്കാനുള്ള വഴികളായിരുന്നു ഓരോ ഘട്ടത്തിലും മുഖ്യമന്ത്രി തേടിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്.
The gold smuggling racket came to light on July 12th when 30 kilograms of gold smuggled in diplomatic baggage was seized. The NIA has arrested 2 more people in connection with the case. The main suspect, Sarit, has been sent to NIA's custody for 1 week. With Gopi Krishnan Unnithan, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Rajasthan's Ashok Gehlot government has intensified its crackdown over the audio tape gate and arrested one of the accused, Sanjay Jain, for allegedly poaching bid of the Congress MLAs. Sanjay Baradia, alias Sanjay Jain, was arrested by Special Operation Group of Rajasthan. The accused has been slapped with the charges of sedition and criminal conspiracy. He was allegedly caught speaking to 2 suspended Congress legislators in a series of audio tapes released by the Congress party. The Congress alleges that not only Jain but even the MLAs were in talks with Union Minister Gajendra Shekhawat, plotting against Gehlot government by indulging in poaching and trying to buy legislators. The Rajasthan audio gate seems to be exploding after the Congress party released audio clips of 2 of its suspended MLAs allegedly in conversation with the Bharatiya Janata Party netas, including Union Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. While the BJP has termed the audio tapes fabricated, Congress is now pressing for a probe. Here's a complete story.
हमने कंप्लेंट की थी कांग्रेस ने कि होस्टिंग हो रही है बीजेपी की तरफ से 10 दिन तक हमें रखना पड़ा लोगों को वहाँ होटल के अंदर.
Just days after Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot claimed proof of horse trading, the Congress dropped a bombshell on Friday. The Congress has released audio clips that it claims show its rebel MLAs Bhavar Lal and Vishwendra Singh in conversation with alleged BJP leaders plotting the fall of the Gehlot government. The Congress has gone one step further. It claims one of the voices is allegedly Union Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat.
बिल्कुल आप सब मिलकर आपके आशीर्वाद से जुड़े हुए हैं बिल्कुल.
साहब माबू 1-2 दिन में संख्या पूरी हो जी.
बस संख्या पूरी हुई यहाँ से गोदा जैसी.
The Congress claims the tapes are proof of bribery by the BJP. The BJP has called the audio clips fake. Gajendra Singh Shekhawat in a statement has denied it's his voice on the tape and claims he speaks a different dialect.
भारत सरकार के कैबिनेट मंत्री श्री गजेंद्र शेखावत जी, श्री भंवरलाल शर्मा जी, जो कांग्रेस के विधायक हैं, वे भाजपा नेता संजय जैन जी की तथाकथित बातचीत सामने आई. इस तथाकथित बातचीत में पैसों की सौदेबाजी, विधायकों की निष्ठा खरीदने और राजस्थान की सरकार गिराने का षड्यंत्र सामने आया है.
कि मुख्यमंत्री निवास फर्जी ऑडियो का केंद्र बन जाए और नेताओं के चरित्र हनन के प्रयास में. जी हां, विधायक ने तो इस बात को नकारा ही है, वो उनकी अपनी पार्टी के हैं, ताजुब है, लेकिन केंद्रीय नेताओं को भी बिला वजह इसमें घसीटने की कोशिश हुई है.
The Rajasthan police has filed an FIR in the matter. It sent a team to the resorts where Sachin Pilot loyalists are holed up to question them. Dramatic scenes ensued as the Haryana police formed a chain to block the Rajasthan police from entering the hotel. Later, they were allowed entry.
The Congress's Randeep Singh Surjewala alleged that Union Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat and BJP leader Sanjay Jain were involved in attempts of horse trading and that there were audio recordings of that, while the BJP maintained that the voice in the recordings was not that of Gajendra Singh Shekhawat and that Sanjay Jain was not even a BJP leader. With Nasir Devankur Vadhavan in Jaipur, India Today.
In a shocking incident, 2 Periyar statues were vandalized in a day in Sundarapuram in Coimbatore. A Periyar statue was vandalized. The incident came to light after saffron paint was poured on the statue, which was cleaned up later. One in Kallakurichi district, a Periyar statue was garlanded with slippers. After news spread about the incident, around 20 Periyar supporters gathered at the spot in Sundarapuram, demanding action against the miscreants. Police are now collecting CCTV visuals from surrounding to identify these miscreants. The members of various Dravidian parties in the Congress gathered at the spot and raised slogans condemning the act. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister EPS says that action is going to be taken against the miscreants.
The ADMK government, which ought to have dealt with these earlier incidents with an iron hand, has not done that. And that is the reason why these fringe elements are emboldened to repeat this again and again. If earlier strong action against the culprits who desecrated Periyar's statue was taken by the ADMK government, these people would not have done this.
After Prime Minister Narendra Modi's morale and muscle-boosting visit to Ladakh, the Defence Minister was there today, accompanied by Army Chief General Naravane and Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat. Rajnath Singh also gave out a clear message to China yesterday from Pangong. India's full military might, from special commandos to battle tanks, all of those were on splendid display. Here's a look.
Indian and Chinese troops may be disengaging 100 kilometers east of this location. But that doesn't mean Indian forces aren't staying ready, flexing muscle, and sending out a powerful signal to the other side. With Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in their midst, the Indian Army and Air Force put on a display of something very special in Ladakh today. The ability to conduct high-altitude warfare without limits. It started off with Special Forces paratroopers jumping out of Air Force Mi-17 helicopters. A mission to showcase rapid injection of troops into the combat zone. The paratroopers involved in the combat freefall are guided to a landing zone by troops called Pathfinders on the ground. The troops on the ground were then seen receiving close air support from an aircraft that has become a familiar and formidable sight in Ladakh airspace. The AH-64E Apache attack helicopter. With the paratroopers consolidating their positions, in roll the first armoured infantry vehicles. Like these BMP-2s, these highly agile tracked vehicles are capable of rapid movement into a hostile zone where there may be incoming fire. Then comes the heavy stuff, the true brutes of the plains, seen here flexing their tracks at high altitude. The T-72 and T-90 main battle tanks, armed with formidable main guns as well as a missile firing capability. These are heavier tanks than what the Chinese operate in the area, compelling India to look for lighter versions in the future. With the drill complete, the Special Forces warriors stepped up to meet their VIP guest, and there's much to see in this image as well. That's a Special Forces sniper in a ghillie camouflage suit, wielding his Sako .338 TRG-42 sniper rifle. This Special Forces man sports an exfil combat helmet designed for combat freefalls of the kind just demonstrated. The Defence Minister himself picked up a Russian Pika general-purpose machine gun at the exercise, a weapon that's omnipresent among frontline troops. What Rajnath witnessed here at Stakhna in Ladakh today is of extreme significance. It demonstrates a speedy link-up of air and ground forces with an offensive posture. That is, not just to defend territory, but to attack and capture if necessary. There couldn't be a bigger signal for eyes and ears which have definitely tuned in from across the line of actual control.
On display was the battle readiness of the Indian Armed Forces, and it involved coming together of the Indian Army's Special Forces, Indian Air Force assets, as well as mechanized forces to make sure that they display a real battle scenario. These are the war games that the armed forces carry out frequently to be always ready for any challenges and swift operations at the line of actual control in case of further military escalation by China. With camera person Satya in Leh, Abhishek Bhalla for India Today.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.